Howdy, welcome to the shop. This is my video response to SW Dweeb and Andrew Martin. I commented on a video that he shot, that Andrew Martin shot with a pouring aluminum into a glass-faced flask with a curved sprue. And while I've done some casting, I've never done aluminum casting. I'm not set up yet. I'm still collecting stuff. I am a problem solver though, and when my brain gets to work and it kicks out stuff. So this is the thought I was having. I also watch Old Foundry Man and about at least a dozen other aluminum casters. I'm trying to learn as much as I can about it, and I like the curved sprue idea. I actually had that idea a while back, and I think it's a great idea. So the problem we're having, or that we're trying to solve here, is porosity, and that porosity, from what I understand, is caused by biofilms, and that's more or less the goal behind these videos, is to help us create better castings. So I've drawn up a couple pictures here because SW Dweeb, you asked about head pressure. Well, when Old Foundry Man is using, and other casters, when they use something on top of their casting as a feeder, it does provide some pressure, but it's not really, that's not what the feeder's for. The feeder is for eliminating shrinkage on top of your casted part, or whatever your object is you're casting. So the idea with the head pressure is a little different, because while that solves your shrinkage problem, it doesn't provide any back pressure. And let me show you. I've drawn a little diagram. Forgive me, it's crude. This is a recreation of what I saw on Mr. Martin's video. So he pours in here, it flows over, and it flows down and around the curve, and then it hits that spin trap, and as soon as it hits that spin trap and starts to fill here, of course any little bit of pressure, back pressure you're getting here, starts to fill underneath the part, and as it rises, it fills the part, and of course you get to a certain point, and they're not always equal, but when you get to the top, sometimes it appears to me that the top edge right here, the top corners where you want a crisp edge, aren't as clear, or they don't have as much force in them. So what I'm thinking is, if that were to solidify and you were to pull that part out of the sand, is what you're going to see is you've got rounded corners on top, and that's not really shrinkage. It's just where you didn't have enough pressure from below to really fill that volume. And part of that may be because the volume of this cube that he's pouring and the volume of this are too close to equal, or this may be just too small, or just not bigger enough to create the kind of pressure that you would want to fill those top corners. So I drew another picture here, and I'm going to show you that. And this kind of resembles Old Foundry Man's feeder, because he's got these wood pieces of wood, blocks of wood that he's turned on lathe to be they're cylindrical about halfway, and then the other half is conical. So it's shaped a little bit like this. It's kind of squarish, and then it kind of gets bigger, and then it's kind of real fat on top, and it's easy for him to remove. So this is what I'm proposing. So when you fill, and I love the block of foam, I think that's probably a good idea. I'm not sure that it's perfect. There's something going on here that I haven't been able to work out in my own mind yet. And keep in mind, this is just the way I see things in my head here. But if you come down and you don't have a hard corner, then there's no turbulence to cause biofilms, and you run all the way across, and as soon as you start to fill here in your spin trap, you're going to again create that pressure that starts to fill here. But as this gets full, this is going to be a larger volume, which of course you're just going to remelt it again later and whatnot. But the pressure, the atmospheric pressure or gravity or however you want to say it, I did say head pressure, is going to, the volume here is going to help push down so that it's heavy over here, causing like a seesaw effect, causing more pressure to come up into your part so that these top corners come out nice and clean and crisp, and there's plenty of pressure. So effectively you've built a feeder, but it's not directly over the part, and you don't have to cut off a big chunk out of the middle of the top of your part. You just have this little tiny sprue coming in, but you still get the advantage of the pressure and the feeder from the bottom, as well as achieving those sharp corners at the top. You can look back on some of the videos and you can kind of see what I'm looking at, and some of that may be just because it's a sand casting and it's up against glass, and it's not perfect, and I know that. But if you're making parts and you're trying to make as close to a finished product each time without having to actually machine things, because while I can run a file or an angle grinder, that takes more time. And if I want to do, say, 50 pieces for a project, and I need them all to be really the same without hours and hours of machining, or if I didn't have a lathe that I could put them on and machine, that would cause me some grief. So instead of having to lap them on a plate or just file them or machine them, you might just have to trim a little flashing or clean up some edges and be done with the project, and be able to move on to the next part. So that's my thoughts. You guys tell me what you think, and we'll try to learn together. Thanks for watching, guys.